listening to Inside Real Estate, your source for all things mortgage and real estate related. The show that brings you all the hottest topics and insights directly from those who know it most. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Sit back and enjoy the show. What is up, everyone? Paul Paslakis. We've got Mr. Tom Lauer. We are Inside Real Estate. Please take a moment and share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if this is your first time. If you've been here before, thank you for revisiting us. You can go to irepodcast.com. You can go to Facebook/IRE Podcast or any podcast app that you want to listen to us on. We are available. So now that that's out of the way, how are you, Mr. Tom Lauer?
Good. Best day ever.
Best day ever.
Let's go.
We have a very special guest today. I've been trying to get this Yahoo on our show for some time. Mr. Matt Berney from Quest Real Estate. How are you, sir?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Appreciate you guys.
Welcome.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
You ready to chop it up today?
Let's do it.
All right. So we've got a few cool topics. Are we seeing a mortgage rate lockdown? That's basically the whole idea that rates have gone up and people aren't going to move out of their house. Wells Fargo paid another $94 million for a settlement. What does the Fed hike mean? And then we're going to go through some questions from some listeners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's what we're going to do. So first and foremost, Mr. Berney, you haven't been on the show. Anybody that's been new to the show, we always start off with, how the hell did you get into real estate?
Taking a
Yeah.
freestyle.
Yeah.
Man.
How did you do that? How
Well,
did that end up happening?
So years ago, kind of like you, I jumped into the mortgage industry and did a little bit of that. Got out of that, did some dabbling, but long and short, what people don't know is I've probably been selling real estate for less than 6 years, about 7 years.
Yeah.
6, 7 years. My good buddy, Ollie Berry, suckered me into working with him and kind of convinced me to, hey, we're growing this business to see what we can do. It's just me and him, kind of see what we can do. We met at Granite City, met with another guy. Other guy thought we were crazy. And we took it from me and him to, I think it's at one point about 30 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been blessed, man. I've been working with great lenders, great partners like yourself, great people across the, across Metro Detroit and just about a little bit of everywhere. So
You've had some success.
I have. I have. It's been good.
What are you going to close this year?
I don't know.
What did you close last year?
25 million-ish, give or take.
That's a lot.
Well,
bro.
it is. And I appreciate that. You probably know, but most people don't know. I don't focus on the money. I don't focus on the clients or the number. I don't focus. I just do the work. Right. And I kind of mentor some of the junior agents, whether it's with our brokerage, with other brokerages, that, if you focus on the right thing and you do the right thing, the right things follow, kind of that old Rocket Quicken mentality. Yeah. But to that point, I think that's what's propelled me for success, right? Is just not, I don't care if you're buying a $50,000 house or a $5 million house. Yeah, $5 million feels a little bit nice at the end of the day, but for me, you could ask me at any given point, like, I'm aware of my business, let's be real, but you could ask me at any given point, like, how many am I closing this month? What am I doing? I just don't know.
You're just going through the motions of actually trying to, not going through the motions, but you're going through the proper steps to get you to the successful part of it.
Every day, I know if I do the right things or I continue to do what I do, the success will follow. Right?
Yeah.
And good days, bad days, it eliminates the peaks and valleys. Right. So that's why you get into these past 2 years where, everybody worked their ass off. Right.
Yeah.
And then you get into the time now where you see a lot of noise about the market and how gloom and doom it is and where it's at. But if you're doing it long enough, like we were just talking about this before, it's sustainable and you'll be all right.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
Yeah. So it's good, man. It's a good business. Do a lot of things. I do a lot of things within the company. Ollie and I work together a lot to grow the brand of what we're doing. And, we're a little bit different, as with internally, and like a lot of brokerages, we're in kind of a hybrid setup where we work very closely with everybody, more like a family than just like, hey, here you are, go find some business. We want everybody to be successful. And that's interesting because we just brought somebody on actually today that is in my backyard. Right. And historically in some environments,
That'd be like
a
threat.
Oh my God,
it's a threat. Yeah.
Between me and another agent, Stacy, in my office, I think between the two of us in the last couple of years, we've sold, I don't know, 300 to 400 houses.
Yeah.
We've worked with each other maybe once.
Yeah.
Right. So what does that mean? Just, there's so much business out
there. There's so much business
as long as you're doing the right thing.
If you're doing the right thing. How is this new market affecting the way that you are dealing with your your business?
I think it was easy the last 2 years, right? It was, when I say it was easy, like you worked your ass off, right? And you worked harder. I think you worked harder for similar results, right? You had to show more houses. You had to go on more appointments. You had to deal with a lot of different things. But for the most part, on the listing side, houses sold themselves, right? You didn't need me to sell your house. You needed me to find you the best within
package.
The 30 offers that we got, right?
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit different. You're going back to pre-COVID. You're going back to selling. I mean, I just closed the deal. 3 houses connected, 6 families connected, all with occupancy. Whoa. One of them was a VA offer within all of those. And we got it closed before the contract date. So, so point is 6 months ago, that doesn't exist, right?
Right.
But now what that means to me is that you have amazing buyers out there and even sellers that have the opportunity to be a part of the market again. If you didn't have a bag of cash and a huge credit score, you couldn't buy a house. So
correct.
Now it's just going back to work, sticking to basics. And I think fortunately for me over the past years, like what I've built, I have a lot of business coming to me, and just because the reputation that I've built but it's not easy. You're back to work. My listings are sitting longer, right?
For sure.
Sellers are concerned, but you have to go back to having those conversations that it's not being sold within 24 to 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, you still see it once in a while, but it's calmed down. But it's, again, if you're consistent, you'll be fine.
What do you do to be consistent? I mean, like, what does consistency look like for you?
Pretty structured. Pretty structured with what I do. Like I was just talking to you this morning, and I get up, I help my wife get the kids to the gym or to the house or out of the house, school. Shit. I go to the gym, I start work, and I stop work at the end of the day. The end of my day, I don't know when it ends. Shut my phone off at night. I have it on do not disturb. And I'm very methodical with what I do. I'm calling clients, I'm following up, I'm going to appointments. But again, to stay consistent is to stay in front of people, continue to get out there, don't be discouraged, work with people, work with partners, continue to grow, do things like this, right? And just grow the business of me. I treat it like a business.
Yeah. Well, it is.
It's funny how many people don't.
They don't.
They treat it as a job.
And it's
or a part-time job or a hobby. I like to know the difference between, do you do real estate for a hobby or do you do real estate for a career?
Or when somebody says it's a customer of mine. That should drive me crazy.
Right.
The customer client mentality. I don't know where that got instilled in me years ago.
Yeah.
But whenever I hear somebody in this business refer to somebody as a customer, I don't care what form of fashion it is, that
it just irks you.
That's your mindset, that it's a single
transaction. You're a transactional type person, right? And we're not transactional in this business. You can't be.
It's all relationships. Man.
It's got to be relationships. It's got to be long-term relationships, staying in front of them. I mean, compare your last year versus your first year. Right. Think about how far you've come.
For sure.
That first year has got to be really, really hard.
Oh, just running incredibly hard. Right. Just run. And
right.
I mean, we were a team of, respectively, a team of 2. And we're, this is 6-7 years ago, where we are completely different and just running. And now, again, respectfully, we've continued to, but we worked our ass off for 6-7 years. And now, as a whole, the benefits of reaping that client relationship and people seeing the reputation and the, I don't know, umpteen reviews that we have, it's a good place to be.
Yeah, man. You guys have built a really good business.
Yep.
What I like about what you guys have done over there with Ali and the team of Quest is that you guys have a lot of agents doing a lot of volume. You don't have 200 agents where you've got, the top 5-10, doing all the work.
It's like their volume per agent's a lot higher than probably most.
Most in the industry. Yeah.
And we've grown with the business instead of there was a lot of brokerages, whether they're brick and mortar or virtual, that were just hiring everybody, and just kind of throwing them out there. And there's some teams out there that we've seen do that, and it's fine, to each his own. It's just not how we've done things. Like, we position people within the company to grow and to have an immediate impact. You come in, you do the right things, you follow the systems in place, you will be successful if you want to be. You work, though. We work.
That's
we
what
gotta
it's about.
work. I mean, you can't not work in this business. I mean, and it's not getting any easier. I mean, you've got to, in a market like ours, I think you got to work harder.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you don't just get to work. You don't get to do the same thing as you did the last 5 years and expect to have your 6th year be the same way.
Right.
You've got to evolve.
Yep.
And change that work habit. As like you said, you've got to get up and do all the right things, but then it's like, okay, what else do I have to do now in this changing environment?
Work harder than the next guy.
That's it, right?
And whatever that means to you, right? Whether that's mentally, whether that's show more houses, whatever you're good at.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good at getting in front of people. When I get in front of people, it's hard to beat me, right?
Yeah.
So that's my mentality, right? I don't care who I'm in the room with, super producer, not producer. I'm good enough to fight with anybody, right?
Right.
So that's where I stay consistent. Is if where you have the shortcomings, especially in sales, you'll just outwork the next guy.
100%. 100%. So what are you seeing as challenges right now? Like, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing in this different environment? Because it changed pretty quick. Like, like overnight, we went from, this like demand that was so rabid that people wanted to get these houses. You still have demand, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of different now, isn't it?
I think so. It was scary, right? So interest rates were ridiculously low. It was free money. You had too many people in the market.
Free money.
Respectfully, it was an unhealthy real estate market, right? Good for everything. But 2%, 2 to 3% for that period of time is unhealthy for real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 4 to 4.5%, 5%, 6%, as we all know, is a healthy market as a whole. Now, when you jump from 3 to 6% in a matter of days, weeks, that's difficult, right? So the challenge that we see is you have people that were in the market for 2 years, were still looking.
Yeah.
And then you have this huge jump. It's almost like a hangover. You had people who were like, I can't do this anymore. And then you on top of it, you do add higher interest rates. You do have, I think, consumer confidence is going down. You do have the increase in inflation. You have a lot of interesting things in the market right now, right? So the willingness for buyers to sellers to make quick judgments has changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which again, I think is for the better. But the education piece, right? That's probably the most important piece right now when it comes to, there's a lot of questions of why are the interest rates the way that they are? What does that mean for me?
Right.
Why is the market the way that it is? What's going to happen? Is the market going to crash? Educating people on truly what has happened through recessionary times. And I think it helps. So you have a lot of misinformation out there.
Yeah.
I think respectfully during the COVID times or during, pandemic through real estate, it was actually there was actually a lot of good information out there. It retrained people the way to think, right? Buyers, the deal, people were trying to get a deal on a house and we took that away and people understood that maybe the deal is the house, right? So they come in strong, they come in correct, right. They do see these great things.
Right.
We're seeing that kind of hangover, but I think now you have more people taking more time. You have more people from the buy side putting more thought into it, possibly overthinking it a bit. And you have the sellers that still think it was 6 months ago.
Yes.
And that is a daily conversation that I have with, I have 5 listings pending right now. I think 2 active, and I have 5 more coming up in the next 2 weeks. It's been a crazy time for me.
That's good. That's fucking wild.
Little flex, right?
Yeah, that's nice.
But to that point, it's the conversations with them is a lot different now than what it was. And it's that education piece. And the things that I've always done, it's just respectfully, you didn't really need it.
How important is pricing right now, the house? Accurately.
Oh, it's huge, man.
Right? It's like pricing right now is a big deal. Everybody wants to price their house high. I just saw my neighbor sell my house high. price per square foot, blah, 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 right? And all of a sudden you come in and you're probably like, well, it's not the same market, right?
So it's a little more conservative, right? So before you could price a house, you could actually come in, and I was never the guy that would overprice a house. I just didn't do that, right? If we were way out of line, respectfully, it's not a good business relationship. But you could do that over the last couple of years. You could price it 20, 30 grand higher because you were getting 10, 15, 20, 30 grand jumps.
Right.
You're not getting that anymore.
No.
You're having more houses sit on the market. You're having more houses take price reductions. And I'm seeing more and more offers that are people
below
are coming in lower, below asking,
Yep.
which blows your mind.
Correct.
Right. So pricing is critical, right? And knowing the market and trusting somebody. I just had a good conversation with a friend of mine that we do business together, and he was thinking about trying to save money to do a for sale by owner. And as a friend, I give him both sides of the coin, but his mindset was the same thing, was like, hey, maybe I can price it here. And my recommendation was not to, right?
Not to do that.
Right. And ultimately I'm going to list the house. But to that point is you have to be man, I can't stress it enough. And I say this to everybody that I talk to, but the educational piece, right?
Yeah.
It's just,
you've got to be the voice of reason right now.
Sometimes it's just, you have to be the person that you're not begging for the business, right?
You can't, I mean, I feel like the people that do, and Tom, you probably see this, is the people that like are out there trying to buy listings or
that's coming. I mean, you see that a lot,
right?
Oh, yeah.
And by buying listings for the audience, I means like listing the house at a value that probably isn't going to get sold. Yep. Right. My house is worth 200,000. My neighbor sold it for 225. I'm going to sell it 250.
Yep.
It's not going to work.
Yep.
Right. So, and then resetting those expectations is key right now.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about thousands of dollars. Right. So, I mean, how are you handling those conversations? Where are you doing a lot of reprices right now and or are you just hanging on and just letting it ride?
I think I'm at this point, it's interesting conversation. So rewind 2 years ago, some of the conversation was, let's put your house on the market. Let's get it. We do all the things that we do. We'll revisit it in a week to 2 weeks to see about pricing, right? Because that was about what the market was, about a 7-day sale range for the most part. 2 years goes by, just sells, right? Just yell out your door and say, hey, I'm going to sell my house. And you got 5 people that want to buy it. Now, kind of getting back to those times. And what I've done is just be more patient, right? So have that conversation of saying, listen, here's where we are. We may have to consider a reprice, but let's see a couple of weeks. Let's see what happens. And respectfully, it's working, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting properties that, I would say as a whole, I'm still around a week, maybe give or take. You have a handful of properties that are less, you have a handful more, but good example, a house having Royal Oak. In Royal Oak, 2 blocks from Royal Oak, under 300 grand, 3-bed, 1.5 bath, basement, 2-car garage. It's been sitting for 32 days.
Well,
Royal Oak.
Just got my first offer in on it.
Really?
Wow.
Put a house up in Warren.
Did you have to drop the price?
I did.
Yeah.
Put a house up in Warren, sold for $10,000 over asking price with a $5,000 guarantee in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So point is that you ask, what do you do? I just do the same thing, right? I just have the same, I don't want to say pitch, but same conversation with the sellers of, this is where the market's at. And we don't know. Right.
Well, and what's important with sellers, I think, is they have to understand that those first 4 to 5 days on market are the most valuable days you can have. Oh. Every day after that, the value of your home continues to diminish and decrease in the eyes of the market.
Yeah. And
right. It goes down and it goes down and it goes down. So if we don't have tremendous action in that first 1 to 5 days, you need to really do something. Either drastically change the look of the house, or the smartest thing is the price.
Yep.
Right. But it's really, really bad when agents take overpriced listings. They try to keep the sellers' expectations high because they're scared. It's easier to take a listing that way.
Yeah.
Right. If I tell you I can get you 30 grand more than the next guy, you're going to hire me.
Yeah.
But we see it all the time. The seller ends up getting less for their house because it stays on market longer than it would have if it was priced at market.
Right.
So it's, you got to watch out for bad agents that'll overprice houses. It's that simple.
That's the hard part. There's so many agents out there that are doing that, to your point, buying listings. And you have somebody that overlists a house and they sell you on overlisting the house, and you never know what the conversation is. Maybe the seller said, let's list it, and they didn't advise them, whatever it is. But then you have somebody like me that will come in and I have to convince you to tell your seller that you didn't do your job right. Because your house isn't the value of what you have it listed at.
Yeah.
And or where it should be. And that's a difficult conversation. It's an ego-driven business, right? And I can show you all the data in the world, but if you're an agent where you've sold somebody on that, now you have to backtrack. That's a tough conversation.
Yeah, that's a tough conversation. Yeah. But it a lot of people hide behind not, it's hard being upfront.
Yeah,
upfront. It really is. It's pretty tough. What are you seeing coming down the pipe? Are you seeing rates going up? Are you seeing inventory going up? Are you seeing inventory stay the same?
It's so interesting. So nobody, again, like I keep referencing the last 18 to 24 months because no one saw that, right? Yeah, I guess you could have anticipated some things, but nobody really saw like the sheer frenzy of like, hey, you can't do real estate, and then 6 weeks later you can, and then just everything goes crazy. To me, from my experience in the business, being in the business as a whole for over 15 years, I see things getting back to where it was before COVID. I see back to, we're going into an election year where there is potentially consumer confidence concerns, where we have inflationary times. I see the consumer going back to having the time to breathe and having some conversations about housing rather than making rash decisions, not doing home inspections, giving your
buyer's market.
It is.
The buyers we're going to transition back to a buyer's market. Hopefully we flow through a stable market for a little bit between now and then. But
what I am worried about,
everything goes like this, right?
What I am worried about is not so much. So before, when we had problems, people were buying houses and getting bad mortgages and getting these crazy things, and we didn't have that, right?
Right.
Your mortgage is solid. You're never. I don't know if we're gonna ever see the rates that we just did. The problem is what they did to get into that house. The amount of cash that I saw and people selling and liquidating assets. The problem that we have is with inflation continuing to rise, the cost of living continuing to rise, taxes continuing to rise, and your income staying the same. It's only a matter of time before something has to give, right? And so when people talk about the loom, the crash, the issues, I think in the future we will have issues because people just don't have the money anymore. People don't have the reserves.
There's a lot of leveraging going on right now.
Just read something, and the average like home mortgage payment is up 60% over last year.
That's wild.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but if you think about it, I mean, interest rates are up 100%.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that the payment would be up 60%. But that's it's a huge difference. There's got to be just a huge amount of people pushed out.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. That just don't have that ability anymore to buy.
Yeah, well, and I think you do have that. You do have, you lose. You guys, you're feeling the issues with refinancing, right? Like
for sure.
Like what you're going to see is cash out, right?
That's gone.
And that's
maybe some HELOCs here.
Maybe HELOCs, but I don't.
The rate and term refinance, which is probably arguably 80% of all the refi business over the last 10 years. Is gone.
Yeah, you're seeing mortgage shops
gone.
Left and right.
Left and right. It's
just beginning to. There's going to be a lot more blood in the streets when it comes to
I agree.
Loan officers and mortgage shops that relied on refis.
It's to be a cold winter, dog.
Cold winter, though, right? It would, like I said, it's even as a loan officer, right? You guys, the business was just there. People were coming to you and just wanting, and now the people that weren't a part of it 3-4 years ago don't understand it. They think that that's what it was, and the entire industry is like that. So you're going to have the agents, the loan officers, the companies re-educate the market and understand here in Michigan. We're in Michigan. I've got people across the country that are even crazier.
That's
wild. Which is wild.
Yeah.
So you're going to read through some stats, Paul?
Yeah, I was going to read through some stats. You're going to get my camera working?
Yeah, I just feel like the people want to see you.
People want to see me? All right. The MBA refinance index. So one of the things that I think is going to cause some inventory issues, dude, is I think people aren't going to move. They're not going to
Sure.
move, because if I'm in a house and I've got 3% interest rates, what incentive do I have to move to a new house at 6%?
To double your interest rate. Pay and pay higher taxes for, you're getting less for more.
You're getting way less for more.
So you're right. I 1,000% agree that it's going to be, I need to settle. And I think it goes back to liquidating reserves, liquidating where we're at with inflation. So it's going to cost me more for gas, cost me more for these things. So how can I justify making this change? And I've had that. I just had that conversation with somebody on Saturday. Was supposed to go relist their house, and they pulled back and was like, man, we relooked at our finances and it just doesn't make sense for us to go. Actually, they're downsizing and to move. But
why would they downsize when they're going to get less house for more?
So they were like, we'll make this work for a while.
Yeah.
Now there's some things on the market that are trying to combat that with the rate buy down. I'm sure you guys are.
Yeah, there's rate buy downs, but those are temporary.
Yeah,
they're temporary fixes. They're just Band-Aids.
Interest only is coming as well. So I mean,
we're gonna start seeing I think we're gonna start seeing fucked up products.
I'm not excited about it.
No, I think we're gonna see some fucked up products.
I'm not excited.
But again, everything's a cycle, and that's how the cycle always plays out.
100%
rates go up, you're gonna get really, really weird products.
Yeah,
40-year mortgages.
40-year mortgages,
40-year interest only. You're back to ARMs. This 2-1 buy down that they're doing. They're selling it as a great product, and for some it is, right? But for most it's not.
For most it's not.
So
you get a lower mortgage payment for 2 years, and then remember, after year 1, your taxes are going to go up.
Yep.
And then after year 2, your payment's going to go up.
Yep.
So now you're
in a bad spot.
You underwrote the house at a $1,200 mortgage payment. It's going to be $1,600-1,700 by year 2 or 3.
And it goes back.
Is that any different than the other crappy mortgage products we had, where you could pay negative interest or interest only?
And all you're doing in that scenario,
it goes up.
All you're doing
the
is
same.
They're paying prepaid interest. They're paying higher closing costs up in the front end too.
True.
So, it's like a shell game. They're just moving stuff around, right? But yeah, I see it being a problem, a long-term problem for inventory, which I think is going to continue our appreciation of real estate over the next 2 years, because I don't see the supply demand issue changing.
No.
Well, I think we've had a lot of buyers drop out of the market. They're going to come back.
Right.
And I think there's going to be there's a lot of people upsizing, having babies. I mean, you're always going to have a demand for homes, and the demand's not slowing down because our population isn't slowing down.
Well, and buildings at an all-time low too, right? And it has
buildings at an all-time low
for the last 10 years. There's a huge gap where they just weren't building houses, and then now you're starting to drive by and you're seeing more people try to build, but you now you have the cost of goods up, building this high product.
It's not cheap to build.
Now you have that combating of like, ooh, are these going to sell?
Right.
It's an interesting time.
Right. Like buying a new build right now is not cheaper than buying, you know what I mean? Back in the day, you can get away with buying a new build and you're going to walk into equity.
Yeah.
That's kind of not the scenario right now. You know what I mean? It's kind of interesting what's going on with the new builds, but I this vapor lock thing, I think, is a thing.
The vapor lock.
Yeah, the vapor lock, where we're going to have people just sitting in their homes, and they're going to be sitting on oodles of equity too on top of that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I think you're going to see, just the HELOC market go crazy.
Lots of people are going to pull HELOCs out.
I think I started seeing a couple more lenders open up HELOCs that didn't have them.
Yep. We have them now.
Some of the big guys, right?
Yeah.
Didn't have
UWM,
them, right?
Quicken.
Yep.
They all have them.
Yep.
Again, I think it's going to be hard for any of those wholesalers to compete with a credit union or a local bank. I mean, you go to a local bank and you're going to get no appraisal, no closing costs, and it's going to be like prime +1.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas like the whole channel right now, I've seen
still
just
not
some
great.
crazy stories, like $4,000 in closing costs, and
for a HELOC.
Yeah, and like 6% over prime. Like there's no correlation there yet.
It's just a product to say we have the product.
Correct.
Because everybody else does.
Yeah,
want to be that guy.
but it's not gonna be a game changer for like a brokerage shop.
Right.
I don't think so.
Feds are the Feds. The Fed is meeting again today, and chances are they're going to raise rates 75 bips to 100 bips again. Yeah, which is a huge increase.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean for mortgage rates?
Well, it's already priced in.
Thank you.
First of all,
thank you.
It's so funny how many calls you get after the news comes out about a Fed rate. How your clients will be like, "What happened to my rate?" Well, that happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. That happened 2 weeks ago. Yeah. The moment they announced, they always like the Fed always announces like, or they'll hint, we'll be doing this, we'll be doing that, and the market already prices all that. That's why we saw such wild swings in the stock market the other day. But
we are well over 6 on a 30-year fixed now.
Yep.
It's just.
I mean, you might as well assume that you're getting 6.5% in today's market.
Yeah, if you don't want to pay points, 6.5. That's a good question I had, Paul.
Yeah.
So when rates are high, I mean, what do you think about buying points? What do you think about buying down a rate when rates are high like this?
I think there's some deals to be had in today's market. Like I always look at the cost of the buy down and how much I'm going to save, right? If I pay a point, I have a $300,000 loan, right? That's 3 G's I've got to pay.
Right. That might move your rate a quarter tops.
It depends. I think our buy downs have gotten better.
Okay.
But I think there's some opportunities there right now.
The only reason I ask is because I have clients asking me, Tom, does it make sense? And
generally it doesn't.
I show them the payment. I tell them the recoup time. But here's the thing, like if rates get out of control and Fannie and Freddie step in or the government steps in and, we see rates now down under 5 again, like that's waste of money.
Right. It's a waste of money if like 3 years
I guess
from
my
now,
mentality is like, why are we buying down points to get you? Like, think about the rate you're getting to with your buy down, right? Like, okay, I can go from 6 to 5.9 or like whatever, 6 in.
Call it 6.5 to 6.25.
Right, to 6.25. Like I just paid $4,000 to have 6.25. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
Right, but if it costs $2,000,
I get it.
I can justify it.
I get it.
Right, if you can recoup your costs within about 2 years, I'm okay doing it. But buy downs aren't that great right now.
Yeah,
but I'm not a big fan of buy downs. Now, just so everybody understands, a buy down is where you pay prepaid interest up front at the beginning of the mortgage process to get a lower interest rate. That's basically what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean the Fed is meaning that, I mean they're really gonna I mean this inflation problem isn't going away.
No.
Is it?
No,
it's not.
No.
It's like it's sticking around. So with this inflation problem, and the Fed doesn't have a lot of bullets left. They stopped quantitative easing.
We're QT now.
Right.
We're quantitative tightening.
They
even said it.
Right.
That's what we're doing.
We're raising rates. What else are they doing? That's all they got.
Shrinking the balance sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shrinking the balance sheet. So all that free money that was just flowing is doing the opposite.
Think about how much money we printed and how that's got to be processed through our system.
For sure.
Right? Like you can't give me $1 trillion and then expect me to be the same the next day. Like I got to go through and process all that. And then all of a sudden you take that $1 trillion away and I'm broke again.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of unintended consequences of quantitative easing with respect to inflation. And inflation has been hidden. And I think a big spot that over the last 15 years, inflation hid was in home prices.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yes, CPI and inflation wasn't up, but man, home prices sure were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're going to see probably I think there'll be some deflation. I think home prices are going to have to come down a little bit.
You think prices are going to come down? I don't.
I think they will have to eventually.
I don't. Not with the supply demand issue.
They're just going to continue rising
4 or 5%.
Home prices,
yeah, at 4 or 5%. I don't see 20%.
Yeah, I mean a healthy market, and historically, what's it like 1 to 3% a year?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, and that should be, unless you have tragic times or you're in a situation where there's the country is at war or something like that. There's really, to me, there's no indicators that they will go down. Now, respectively,
here's my question though: how much have they gone up over the last 10 years?
Oh, I mean, it's
100%.
I think last year alone, I think Michigan
20%.
was up 12%.
So when you have accelerated to that level price increases called inflation, right? It's the inflation of the housing market. Don't you think that'll self-regulate eventually?
I feel it levels off, and
I feel like it's self-regulating right now.
And I feel like the level off feels like a decrease. So if my value is not jumping 20,000, it jumped 2,000, it went down, right?
Yeah.
The perception is, oh my God, like they're not rising like they are. But what would trigger the rates to go or houses to go down?
Great question.
My neighbor foreclosure. I mean,
Foreclosure rates are the lowest they've been.
I mean, that's what I mean. And we're talking, and if with a foreclosure situation, let's say if we were to get back into that, we're talking before we even would see that, but 12 to 18 months before you even see what the recourse. If I stop making my mortgage payment today, and I go 6-8 months, you're not going to see that house resell. Depending on the government will step in, because we will run into that, right? And there will be houses sold on the secondary market like that. But I don't see it too much in Michigan, but I did keep up with the wholesale buying, right? The big companies, coming in and buying.
They're backing off.
They did, but they're holding. They're not selling the house, right? So,
unless you're Zillow and you're trying to dump everything that you bought,
So I think it'll be interesting to see if they quote unquote drop. But what is the metric? Where is the baseline to say your house is? Because if my house,
I guess here's my thing: if things can go up 100% in 10 years, why would we not think they can go down 100% in 10 years?
Because you don't have enough supply of that product.
But you need more supply.
That's the biggest thing. It's I go back to supply.
Well, supply or demand. If demand drops enough,
demand would have to really drop quite a bit.
Right. Do you think 12%, 14% interest rates would impact demand?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't see us having 12% interest rates though.
Me neither. Not right now.
Let's hope not.
So what would cause?
They did go from 3 to 6 in 6 months.
So what would cause?
You don't think they could go to 6 to 12?
Well, they went from 3 to 6. They doubled, and we're still seeing appreciation in high demand.
I guess here's my thing: everything's a cycle, and prices are. I mean, it's supply and demand.
You're going off of the possibility of having a correction based on the cycle, right? Just because it has to kind of cycle through in your mind.
100%.
In your mind, you're like, it has to wash itself out.
All these low interest rates and all the money that was pumped into the system, there's going to be unintended consequences of that on the other end. And everything's going to swing back the other way.
There's an argument for that.
High rates.
There's an argument for that, but it would take high rates, foreclosures. I mean, we really got to hit like a bad recession.
So that's what we're kind of hoping for then, right? We want a bad recession to happen so inflation doesn't continue to grow. Because how else are you going to?
I mean, I feel like Jerome Powell wants us to go into an inflation. I don't think there's any fucking question about it. Like he wants not an inflation, a recession.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like he wants a recession. He wants to see things slow down. Like he says it very blatantly. Like we are still.
That's really the only tool to correct it, isn't it?
Putting
inflation.
Us in a recession.
Yeah.
He said the other day, we're going to have pain. We're going to have this. We're going to have that. Right. Jerome Powell is probably one of the most influential people in our country right now. And every word he says is being hung on.
Right.
And when he says we're going to be in pain for the next few years, that goes to show you that he wants to see a recession, in my opinion.
Right.
Which is interesting.
I think it just goes back to your point, though. It's like, where's the line of, yes, it could decline, but you're going to get to a point. Let's just say you get 7, 8, 9, 10, 12%, right?
Decline?
Interest rates.
Oh, yeah.
The only people that will be selling their house are the people that have to sell their house.
Right.
They have to.
Which trauma,
job change.
But
that goes away too, right? Like historically, job change was a big market motivator in a market where people didn't want to sell.
Yeah.
But you had to because of job change.
You don't have to.
That could be off the table now a lot because of the work from home.
Exactly.
So that could be a big change.
I just don't see people moving out of their, like, if I have a house right now, I'm not moving out of that house. It's I mean, people are going to be sitting there. Before you'd have people change homes every 3, 4, 5 years.
They wanted to, right?
They wanted to.
They needed to go back to like our parents, right?
They made a good investment.
They didn't move. They didn't leave. They didn't update their house. They lived there because it was great. It was functional.
Yeah.
They didn't overbuy, right? They didn't go and get the cars that we have right now. We buy things out of want, not necessarily out of need for the most part. So we get back to that mentality of like,
that's what we all need as a society. We got to get back to the buy what I need society versus the buy what I want society. That would be good for everybody.
Where houses were like $20,000-$30,000.
Right. But now it's like, the iPhone's a G. You're paying $1,100 and you do that once every 3 years.
I'm getting 3 of them in my house.
Right?
Jesus, house full of girls. Got to have fun.
I hear you, man.
That's awesome, man. So Berney, what do you think? I lost my question. I totally
okay.
lost my question. I don't know what I was going to say.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about Quest.
Yeah.
What's going on over there? Like,
Cool,
how many
man.
agents are you guys at now? I mean, what's your philosophy? Are you full-time? Do it take part-time people?
Great. So as you guys know, Ollie Berry's the broker. He's one of my best friends.
Tell Ollie I said hi.
I will.
Ollie's a good friend of ours.
He better be watching. We do a lot of it together. He's grown a lot with the company and with the experience of what we've done. We caught a lot of flack being the young guys in the industry when we first started, right? Yep. And we were, right? Maybe not so much experience-wise and mentality, but when you have, a brokerage that's a respectively an unknown powerhouse that is doing, no one really wants to give you that respect. And we've earned that right through the business and how we handle business. So we've taken it from, like I said, years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, 2 of us basically out of his house. And at the height, I believe we're at about 32 people, 33 people. Wow. We're in the mid 20s right now. We have admins. We actually have another brokerage in Atlanta. We have another office in Atlanta where we have agents down there.
What was that decision? Like, why did you decide to do that?
Yeah, why Atlanta?
I can't speak so much for him for that respect, but we had an agent, a great agent that was relocating. We also looked at the opportunity for growth and why not harness what we have and grow with the business. So we had somebody that was leaving because of personal issue, wanted to stay with the company. So if we can, why don't
support it?
Let's support it. And it's already flourishing, right? So it's a good thing to be in, right? It's a good scenario to be in. So
cool. That's awesome.
Full-time agents for the most part. We have people that, a little bit all over the board. We have agents that do a couple million a year. We have agents that do, 25, 30 million a year. You have people that want to sell 20, 30 houses in a year, which is honestly low for us. Great for the agent and great. They do a great job. But then you have other people that look at differently, where if I'm not selling 80 to 90 houses a year, it doesn't make sense for me.
Right. So where do like, I'm sure you guys do this, like look through your closings for the previous year. Like for example, Realty, we're super sphere of influence heavy on closing. So like we're probably 70% of our closings come from just our inside sphere. And then the rest is, I don't know, sign calls and Google and Facebook and web. Like, how do you guys break down on kind of the business that you're doing?
I think initially when we first started, we had our sphere of influence, but when you only have a couple of guys, it's hard to really elaborate on that. So we built strategic relationships with people in the industry, partners, lenders, and stuff like that. And we leverage that to grow, right? So we're probably in the respect now, I would think we're about 70 to 80% of our self-generated business, our sphere of influence, our sign calls, all that other stuff. And then we have about another 20 to 30% that's, Google pay-per-click, our website.
Got it. So it's about Facebook. the same mix.
Yeah.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where we try to encompass a little bit of everything and get out there. And again, as with Realty, as an independent company, it's sometimes hard to compete with the Keller Williams and the big box names because we don't have that budget. We don't have that brand. And as we've built, and I've watched you guys grow, and as everybody's built in the area, you start building the clout, if you will. Now it's a little bit different, right?
Right.
Consumers changing too, right? I think the new consumer, I always look at my crazy to think, but 19-year-old daughter and how she consumes information.
Totally different.
And how she buys. And I'm like, that's who the clients are going to be. Yeah, you've got the old school guys, but like people do this.
Better get on TikTok.
That's it, dude. So it's
on that TikTok, bro.
It's a good setup. The company, like I said, we treat it like a hybrid situation where it's more so you have some of the brokerage aspect, you have some of the team aspect, and it's been incredibly successful.
Cool.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, we are running out of time.
Yeah, man.
Time goes by quickly, so we're gonna do 3 questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware, but they're random questions that okay. First question I'll ask is, what's your favorite part of your body to work out?
My shoulders.
Yeah.
My shoulders. It's
Shoulders are nice.
my shoulders are pretty strong.
Yeah.
They look sweet in the gym when I'm wearing a tank top. I got a pretty cool tattoo of my daughters on my shoulders, so it's like cool. I did a good job.
There you
So
go.
that's probably it.
All right, Tommy, you got any questions?
Yeah. Favorite movie?
My wife always gives me shit about this. The Devil Wears Prada.
I did that. I like
The
it.
Devil Wears Prada is a good movie.
I'm a very coming of age person, right?
I love that.
So like movies like that, Pursuit of Happiness,
Cool.
Antoine Fisher, like those for whatever reason they resonate with me.
Wow.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I would have never thought.
Most people don't.
I love
Devil
it.
Wears Prada.
Devil Wears Prada. Every time it's on TV, I gotta watch it. My wife
I love
loves
it.
shit all the time.
That's funny. You know what movie I like a lot is Bedazzled.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
That's a good
Bedazzled
one.
is a good
We should
movie.
all have a movie night.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
cry.
fun. We'd put it on right here. We do a podcast with the movie on. It'd be great.
Next question. If you could live in one era of time, what would it be and why? Other than our own.
Ooh. Man, 70s and 80s was cool, I guess. I mean, I'm an 80s kid, so I don't remember much of it, but seeing family that grew up in the 70s or kind of really grew up, my parents were in the 60s, and seeing that era where there was a little bit more discovery and freedom,
Free love, baby.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? Lots of less hate, if you will.
Talk about a cultural shift from
Huge,
back then, right?
Huge. And then you go to the 80s and it's just like this huge progression of everything. And
Yeah.
I think 70s were cool.
You know why
You
the
ever
80s were so cool is because it's like we had all this technology, computers were sweet and all that shit, but we still didn't have phones.
We didn't
figure it
have,
out.
yeah,
Right? People weren't totally immersed in their screens yet.
80s?
That was like the last generation.
Yeah, the 80s you were starting to get into like
I mean, there was
Walkman,
TV
like,
and-
that stuff.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
getting
You
into
were-
like the digital world, and then
But like
the 90s.
screen time wasn't like it is
God,
now.
No, man.
Right?
Nobody was.
No.
We weren't doing this.
No,
right?
80s had great music.
Yeah.
The movies were raunchy as shit.
Oh.
You couldn't get away with what they got away with in the
TV
80s.
shows, man. Like
TV shows. You cannot get away with what they got away with in
Sanford
the
and
80s.
Son and
Oh, man.
all that.
All
of
that
stuff. I
stuff.
grew up watching that stuff.
All that
It's just
stuff.
Crazy.
So all you 90s and 90s kids out there,
No idea.
no idea,
No idea.
no idea what I remember. We didn't have the internet.
Mm-mm. I remember AOL Instant Messenger. Actually, my assistant was just talking to me about
Net
that.
zero
the other day.
dial-up.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it was
Yeah, you
nuts.
do that. I had the
Hope-
cord going from my kitchen to my bedroom. It was
Hopefully
like
it came
100
on.
feet.
right?
Yeah, nobody could call the house.
Yeah, don't call the house because you're using a phone line,
yeah,
right? And somebody calling and kick you off the internet.
Right.
yeah. It was pissed. So, Berney, tell the audience how they can get a hold of you, man.
Yeah, man, you can reach me. Cell phone's best way, but you can catch me anywhere. You can Google my name. I'm all over the place. Directly, my direct number 248-632-2134.
Slow that down. Slow that.
248-632. I'd say it twice. I'm a sales guy.
All right.
Right.
2134. So text. I do a lot through text.
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram, not so much on TikTok. I think I posted one video on my life.
Yeah.
But I'm out there, man, and you're gonna start. There's a lot of things coming. You're gonna start seeing a little bit more of me. So
Yeah?
there's
Awesome.
Well, you did our podcast finally.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. So
It's like your coming out
good.
party right here.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Hoorah. But yeah, man, catch me anytime. If anybody ever has any questions, real estate wise, you think you vibe with me, it'd be shocking on how many agents that I talk to at other brokerages just talk to, right? And I don't recruit, I don't do that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of people that I see in the business where I see where I was and where people want to be. And if people want to listen to how I've done things, I have no problem. I'm an open book.
Yeah,
In
man.
this business, you can see if you
Everywhere.
know you sell this and you know this is what commission is, you kind of know where people are. And
Yep.
sure.
there's a lot of
Can't hide.
No. So
No.
but yeah, man, anytime.
Berney, thank you so much for
Yeah,
being on the
buddy.
show, man. I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, it's cool.
It went by really fast. We'll have you back on someday.
For sure.
All right.
Cool.
For those of you that have sat through the show throughout the whole show, thank you for listening. Please go to irepodcast.com. You can go to Facebook.com/IRE podcast. You can find us on any podcast app. Please like, share, subscribe, leave us a review. That really does help us quite a bit. And we'll see you next week. Peace out.
You've been listening to Inside Real Estate, the nation's top real estate podcast. Don't forget to follow us at irepodcast.com and everywhere where podcasts are available.